You're listening to Community Forum on KCCC 930 AM, sponsored by Eddy County, honoring God, country, and family, thriving with industry since 1889.
Thank you for listening to Community Forum. My name is Johnny Chandler. I'm the owner of KCCC 930 AM and the host of Community Forum. And with me today, I'm now going to call you our good friend because you come on quite a bit now. So it's our good friend, Hannah Ornelas. Hannah Ornelas is the program assistant for the Carlsbad Anti-Drug and Gang Coalition. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, well, welcome back.
Thank you.
And so you become a regular, at least once a quarter appearance. I mean, probably like 4 times a year is what we've been shooting for. But we always have you on whenever we have something real critical or something important coming up. But I want to recap the last time you were here. But before I even do that, I want you to remind all of us again, you know, you're a program assistant. Maybe tell us a little bit about what that is and what exactly you do. But also tell us the mission of the Carlsbad Anti-Drug and Gang Coalition. And then just to throw another question on top of that, how long has the coalition been around as well?
So as a program assistant, we work under state and federal grants with our nonprofit. And so what I do in those as an assistant is I work underneath each of those grants. And we have 6 of them total, and they all focus on different things, which kind of makes up the entire point of the purpose of the Carlsbad Coalition. So I work with my program managers. I assist them in any ways. I do a lot of hands-on meeting in person, and most involvement within our programs that we have, which I'll mention here shortly. But with the Carlsbad Coalition, our entire purpose is drug prevention and awareness in the community. And so we just want to make it a cleaner and safer place, but also bring light to the positive sides of life. You know, we don't want to use like scare tactics. Sometimes people, when they hear that we work in drug prevention, they relate us to the DARE program. And as like a surface level, I'll say, yeah, something like that, you know, similar. We do educate, and a lot of our prevention efforts can be similar, but minus the negative aspects.
Yeah, so let me ask you about DARE real quick, right? Because I'm of the generation where DARE was a big thing, right? Drug abuse resistance education. I'll never forget it. And now the shirts are so old, they're retro cool now,
yes.
right? But the idea is that, is it the word resistance, right? Is that kind of makes you feel like it was a little more of a combative stance in the idea of prevention? Like we're trying to resist. Is that like, you felt like that was maybe the negative term within all of that? Because you're very similar, but you also said that it seems to be a little bit.
Not so much. I would say, I mean, resistance is still a pretty good word. I would say maybe it's just if there was ever like, during that generation or that era, there's like the photos and videos just showing like the lungs or what someone's face looked like.
Oh yeah, what about the
like
egg?
Car accidents. Yeah, just like, you know, gross pictures, and I get it. You know, for people, it worked. For a lot of people, it still could have worked. I'm not saying that it didn't. I think our focus the last year has been, how about we put light to this percentage of high school students that are not using, or this percentage of adults in the community that are not turning to this certain substance.
Let me ask, what's the core like demographic, the core age group of the coalition that you're really trying to focus on prevention, or is it across all age groups?
So we do try to go across all age groups, but lately, the last couple of years, our main focus has been more on the youth.
Right.
Most of our programs have been focused on that, and so our core age group would be like 6th to 12th graders. We do want to dive back in more into the adult generation, because everybody matters in that sense. You know, we're trying to hit every age, seniors, adults, elementary, teens, doesn't matter. But it does seem like the last couple of years, our focus has been a little more on middle school and high schoolers.
Yeah. Okay. So how many years have you guys been in existence?
So I might be wrong on this, but I think it was 2012.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me.
That sounds about right too.
It's on your website. I've read it. The founding members are on there. I think it's been 2012. So you're looking at a solid 12 years of existence, right? And it kind of probably was something that came out of the idea of DARE when DARE started getting phased out anyways.
Yeah.
And then so how long have you been with the Anti-Drug and Gang Coalition?
So a little over 2 years. I started in July of 2022.
Okay. And now this is a large coalition, right? I mean, I've been to some meetings. It's a pretty big group from all across the community.
Right now, like as far as who works within our office, like just the coalition, it's just the 5 of us.
Okay.
But we do, it seems like we have a large community surrounding us. We have like a community impact council. So we kind of join forces with other nonprofit organizations within the Carlsbad community. We do that once a month, but sometimes a little more when we're doing further efforts like tailgate parties, or when it happens like, Red Ribbon Week or other events going on. But the community impact is something that we started just a couple years ago ourselves, and we're seeing a lot of fruition from that, meeting a lot of new community members, helping each other out. What are some ways that we can help out, whether it's Boys and Girls Club or CASA, plenty of other organizations that we see on a regular basis.
So the last time you were on, we were talking about the survey. Mm-hmm. There's an annual survey that the state of New Mexico puts on every year, and you guys obviously run it for Eddy County. Mm-hmm. Results, the state of New Mexico. It's going to take a while to get the results in, but you have some preliminary information. I think before we started recording, you were letting me know that about how many people filled out the survey. Yeah,
we were able to see at least the entries right around like 240, somewhere between 240 and 300.
All right.
People were able to complete the survey, and so that will give us enough feedback on what we can do next. Once we get those results.
And then there's a statewide aspect of that too, right? And this is just a way for us to. And that's the thing. I remember for the survey, you can remain anonymous on the survey, or if you choose to give your email, you could also win a prize or something of that nature, right?
Correct.
Okay, so the prize has already been given out.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes, and so and we didn't know the winner because this is for the entire state of New Mexico.
Okay.
Not just Carlsbad, but they do. I think they did like 3 giveaways per week for like a whole month. So you're looking right around like 12 giveaways. Those giveaways were like $500 or up to $500.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, the state of New Mexico running it, so I can criticize them a little bit, right? and I will. So since it's not the Carlsbad Anti-Drug and Gang Coalition. So we have 33 counties in the state of New Mexico, right? And we have 33 counties that they want to fill out this survey to get the most accurate information as possible. So you would think that at least one winner from each county, which means you'd have 33 winners, right? Would be maybe the best way to entice individuals in the county.
For sure.
Instead of 12 out of 33. And I think the state has enough money to do that, but I digress. You know what I mean? 240, we'll get a good idea. We'll know what it is. And just recap for us real quick, or tell us real quick again, how you use that data, right?
Yeah, so whatever data we get back, we want to use that since it's going to be focused on our own community or county. In that sense, what resources can we give back to the community? If we're seeing something as like maybe a negative result, or maybe, hey, this looks a little concerning. So some of the questions, which is also a reason why it has to be anonymous, is that some of them can seem a little invasive, and that's the information we need to know the truth. How can we make this place a safe place? How can we aid in people's lives? And so some of the questions have to do about personal substance use, if that's a thing in their life, if they know a family member or relative or friend, or if they're aware of community standards when it comes to substance use. But also it asks about like law enforcement, what are your opinions on law enforcement when it comes to like DUIs, DWIs, or people that are under the influence while they're intoxicated.
It's real personal information there too, right? And then like, everybody goes to the doctor, and the doctor's like, remember, you're not supposed to have more than 2 drinks a day. And I'm like, yes, of course, right? Yeah, right. I'm telling you the truth, right? Yeah. Everybody tells the truth when they go to the doctor. Everybody tells the truth on surveys. Yes. So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So you use that data to then create effective programs. Mm-hmm. As a program assistant, you have programs up and coming, right? You've got some things on the horizon here. Pretty quickly. You want to share some of that with us?
Yes. So one of the programs that we've had for quite a few years now is the All Stars program. Okay. One of many. We focus on 6th and 12th grade. This year, we focused more on the 8th graders. It's All Stars Plus. So within the All Stars curriculum, we're teaching these middle schoolers both about their dreams, their goals, how to accomplish those goals, how to form good habits and communication and relationships, but also it does talk about like substance use, just their knowledge of it so that they're aware. But risky behaviors, if they're in a bad situation, how would they think of alternatives or ways to get out, or someone to call? Peer pressure, because that's obviously a thing even in elementary school. Sadly, like peer pressure is a thing that a lot of students can encounter.
So peer pressure in elementary school, like what does he think? I mean, not having the right pair of shoes is the type of peer pressure I think of when it comes to peer pressure in elementary school.
Possibly. I mean, we don't do a whole lot with elementary school, and we really want that to change because we do want to bring maybe a curriculum that's similar but more appropriate for
So how young is like too young to teach kids about drug use and alcohol use, when considering that you might be introducing them to something they'd never know about, right? So it's a real when do you start? Like, I mean, if mom and dad are drinking a lot at home, then they get they recognize it and they see it really early in life. But so that's a delicate thing. Middle school is always that's what you start to comprehend.
Yeah, middle school
you start to get out of the house more when people left out of the house, I guess, that type of thing. So explain to me the All-Stars program a little bit, though.
Okay. So the All-Stars program, as I said, it's one of our forms of prevention. And so we're meeting with these students once a week on Mondays. Every week we have a different lesson for them, but we want to make it fun and enjoyable for them. We don't want to walk through those doors and they're like, oh, All-Stars today. Normally we have a good response and they're like, oh, yes, we got All-Stars. It's Monday. And so I go in and the last couple lessons, it is the beginning of the school year.
Right.
So I tell them up front, like, this is what All-Stars is. This is what you're going to know about. We are going to talk about substance use. We are going to talk about how to get out of risky situations, what to do if your friend tries to pressure you. But also we are going to have a little more lighthearted lessons where we're talking about their goals or focus on that individual. But how do those even go hand in hand is we care about their goals. We care about their future, and for them to have a healthy future, for them to accomplish these things, they will have a better result of that if they kind of stay away from those substances, because what those substances do if they were to use at their age alters a lot of their brain chemistry, their memory, their learning capabilities, being able to soak in new information. At the age their brain development is still at such a pivotal point,
right?
Middle school and high school. And so to use substances during that such peak time during their brain development is very crucial and would have a much more negative effects than an adult user.
I mean, you were a teenager too at one point, right? And you like to go, I'm sure, and maybe enjoy a party on the weekends or something like that,
yes.
right? So how do you sit there and tell teenagers that the government has set an age where you can start doing these things for a reason, right? Listen to your government, young people. Listen to the authority, young people, right? That's a hard thing. I think it's important to be somewhat close to the age of the students that you're teaching as well, meaning that when you're somebody that's my age, middle age, you just don't relate to the middle schoolers necessarily as much as somebody that seems like they'd be a younger, hipper person.
Yes.
I'm referring to you.
Yeah, but I think also it has to do with not a lot of times do I want, because it's not about me, but I do feel like I'm able to teach them better and emphasize on those risky, if there's a weekend they're at a party or someone asks them to do something, I'm able to still relate because I go back in time. I think about one of our biggest grant strategies is parents who host lose the most, because it's a thing where you go to parties on the weekends, but the adults are there and they're very aware. And they're like, as long as you stay in the house and drink or use this substance, whether it's cannabis or alcohol, whatever.
What type of pressure is there to be the cool parent, do you think? Now, you have a young child now, right? So, what type of pressure is there later when they're a teenager and they're, you guys aren't bonding like you did and everybody's all frustrated because you got frustrating teenagers, right? With a teenage daughter that's now 22. I remember the frustration from that, right? So how much pressure is there as a parent to be the cool parent?
The pressure to be a cool parent? I mean, I guess I wouldn't. I mean, I'm a parent of a 2-year-old, so I can't say I have any experience with a teenage, but I feel like when I overhear about other parents that may host these parties, or even if it's not a whole party, even if it's just well, they can drink around me at home as long as they're with me and I'm aware of how many drinks they're having. I'm not familiar with how much pressure they're encountering, but sometimes I wonder if it has to do with keeping some kind of relationship there with their daughter or son. I have no idea.
That's good speculation. I'm going to give you that. That's actually a really good theory. And we can also remind everybody that we're not in Europe, right?
Yeah,
in Europe, it's different over there, but that's not where we're at. So one more question about the All-Stars. You're focused on 8th grade this year. How many students do you have in this All-Stars class this year?
So total, we're in 2 different schools, are at PR and AV. I'm with Miss Duarte's class, so we have roughly around 114 students in that one.
Wow.
We have around 145 at Alta Vista, and then we have one extra class that one of our co-facilitators teaches at PR for a different teacher. That has about 25.
Okay, and just keep in mind, there's only 5 of you that are running all of this, right?
Correct. So there's 3 of us that are doing the All-Stars program, which is why we can only focus on 8th grade because of that reason.
Right.
Our director is heavily focused on more like community and also like our budgeting. There's a whole lot that goes behind the scenes that she works on. And then we have another one that kind of oversees all, but also heavily involved with the media and everything that needs to be done media wise. And so even now with what we're doing today, like, you know, she's aware of it, she's able to report it, but she does a lot for like newspaper, other radio ads, and social media. And me thinking like at first, so easy to make a post, but it's not that easy. It does take a lot of work. And so we all have our different strengths, and I love to see that. We're kind of like a big puzzle at the coalition.
That's great. It comes together nicely, right?
Yes.
Let's move around. You mentioned something before we started recording. Now, at the end of this program, you have 3 great events that are coming up. We're going to make sure to highlight those very heavily. But I also wanted to talk about, you mentioned something about cannabis prevention, right? And then so I always like ask the question about cannabis now that it's legal in our state, right? And I always start with this question. I'll ask you this every time. You can tell me if the sentiment changes every time we interview you or not, right? But the idea is it a more prevalent problem for people under 21 now than before it was legal?
That's a good question. I see it more as a problem now just because with it being legalized, we have so many cannabis shops that have popped up since then. We have, I think, around maybe 20 now in Carlsbad. I might be wrong on that number, but we're pretty up there.
There's a lot. You might be wrong because you're undercounting.
Yeah, maybe I'm undercounting. Yeah. Like when Esther and I, she's my program manager, we went out a couple years ago and there were 14, but then there were still like 3 that were in progress of opening up. And they just weren't yet. And then that was 2 years ago. So since then, it's grown. That's why I'm like, I think it's 20 now. And who knows, maybe more. But I think it's more of a problem because there's more accessibility. There's more shops. There's more products. And there's not every shop in Carlsbad or anywhere in the U.S. that has recreational legalized is IDing everyone. And so there's still youth getting a hold of it. But then also the adults, like even if they are ID'd and they're following all the policies that need to be taken care of, like adults that are old enough, 21 and over to purchase it, if they store it at home, the youth can still get their hands on it somehow.
Right. It's now it's an alcohol category now. And so as a result, I think parents might be more likely to keep it the same way that they would alcohol. You know, like remember parents having to lock up the liquor cabinet, right? That old adage, that doesn't change. That's not an old adage. That's still very true, right?
Yeah.
And now if you're an adult who indulges in that legal activity, then you also need to make sure you take the same precautions to make sure your teenager isn't getting drunk. Also make sure they're not getting high. So if this has been a major focus for you guys, tell us some of I think you mentioned that you recently did some training on this.
Yeah, so we did a whole training in the last week. I love the training because it's really teaching more on the different types of cannabis products and variables. There's, of course, inhalants. So you're using like if you're smoking, using a joint, or if you're using like a vaporized, like electronic pen. But then there's several other ways to use. There's the edibles, there's dabs, there's oils, wax, something called butter, like all different kinds of products. But it's important to learn about each of these variables because some of them are more potent than others that contain much higher amounts of THC. And so THC is, of course, the intoxicating part of cannabis. That is what gives people that euphoric high feeling, but when overused, it can create a lot of horrible side effects like paranoia, hallucinations. The thing that I think that I'm most passionate about, I don't just see it as some training I'm supposed to take, but I've even had like personal friends from my past that turned to cannabis, and they were old enough, they were adults, but they turned to it because they're like, I'm just really stressed and I'm really anxious and depressed, and they heavily used it every day to cope with that. And they realized when they came to a point where they needed to stop, whether they decided that or they got a job, whatever the case may be. And now their anxiety symptoms have been worse since and having more panic attacks. And so we've actually been seeing a lot more reports from that with cannabis seeming like a new thing, as I'm seeing like socially and culturally, like it used to be that drinking alcohol was the cool thing. And if you needed to cope, then getting drunk on the weekends. But now, like even sometimes on TikTok, you might see like drinking alcohol is not cool. Smoking weed is so much better for you. It's healthier for you. And so people are comparing two substances together, but there's still the dangers that go with the cannabis use. And it's not just your knowledge of the potency and adults that are using it, but it's also like, okay, this is why you need to be careful though. Like if you are overusing or you're using every day, like this is what could happen in your future, even as someone who's old enough, even if your brain development is, you're 25, you're 26, your brain development is good now, like there's still some pretty harsh side effects. And so that's just for adults. So imagine teaching that to youth who are still at that peak point in their brain development, what kind of side effects that they would experience at a much younger
There's
age.
not really the same stigma around it if you're a young person that there was. It's like when something is always illegal and you expect it to be illegal your entire life, there's a different realization about it. And you think about it differently than when at this certain age, it's now going to be okay. Mm-hmm. That changes the mindset for you from all the way from the beginning when you first learn about the substance on. So good job on the cannabis prevention. I think that you're right. It seems prevalent everywhere. Mm-hmm. And you can follow state laws, so it's important to make sure the young people don't get hooked onto that any more than they typically did when they were younger, right? What did you tell me? You've had a survey once. They came back that there was somebody like even as young as 12, right? What's the youngest that you guys have of people smoking marijuana?
If it was 12, I mean, maybe it was 12 as far as like survey results. Like when we do SFS surveys in the schools, mm-hmm. Then that's where we'd get those results. And 12 would probably be an accurate answer because that's the lowest if we're doing like 6th through 12th grade.
Sure, right. So we get in the middle. Once you get into that middle school, the whole game changes from elementary school. That's exactly what you were talking about earlier in this program. Now, I want to shift real quick. I mean, we got a little bit of time left, but I definitely want you to promote the events you have coming up. I know that you have some 3 events actually very close together, I think, right? You've got an October 3rd event, an October 5th event, and an October 11th event. So fire away on your events, please.
All right. So the 3 events, October 3rd, since that is the soonest one, if you live in Loving or Carlsbad, doesn't matter, but they do have a block party that is before their football game. And so that is taking place October 3rd. That's on a Thursday. I believe it starts at 5 p.m.
In Loving.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Over by the high school. So please attend that one. If you're a Loving Falcon, you have a family member there. They're going to have a lot of games. It's very similar to a tailgate party in a way, but also carnival-like. Lots of games to play and food.
That sounds fun. And then you're going to watch a football game after that.
Of course, yes. Yeah. So that's the first event. The next event we have coming up is a big one for us because we're tying it as part of one of our fundraisers. So October 5th on a Saturday from 8 to noon, we're going to be at the farmers market downtown on Main Street here in Carlsbad. And so all month long, we've been running a fundraiser called Pies for Prevention. We have 5 people on this list to get pied in the face. Whoever gets the most votes will get pied in the face at this farmers market.
On October 5th.
Mm-hmm, October 5th. So we'll have our booth. We'll have all of our information. We'll have a really fun photo booth as well, pies to give away. But then, of course, you'll see the person get pied in the face. And so some of these people you might know.
Okay.
Yvonne Branch, she's a principal over at Alta Vista. Derek Clark, he's also a principal over at Pure Leyva.
Okay, that makes sense. The 2 schools that you're involved with the All-Stars programs. Okay.
Yes. And then another school, we have Isaac Flores over at the high school. He's one of the SROs over there. So a lot of high school students know him. We have our very own Joanna Wells, who's our director, and then Matt Hutchinson. And so newly voted sheriff in town. He's also on our board as well. So
people have to vote for that, right? You vote or do you donate and vote, or how are you guys looking to gain popularity with this event?
So you could do it. There are some posters around town, but you can do it easily online on our website on carlsbadcoalition.com. It's one of the first posts you'll see. It can't miss it. Has all their faces, but you can vote as low as $1. So if you're like, I'm just going to vote once, that's $1. But if you submit $10 on the Square app, it's counts as 10 votes. So technically, whoever on that list of people has the most votes will get the pie. And
is there a specific reason we're raising money at this event, or are we just raising money because the organization needs to be funded to keep up the great work?
So we do have a focus for this fundraise money. It's for our Teens in Action group. So we do free events once a month for the whole community. for 6th to 12th graders, we supply pizza, drinks, candy, and then have a vendor. And so normally our events come to around $700 to $750. We don't want kids or parents to pay a dime, but of course, for it to be free, we have to have some kind of money to back that up.
Right.
And so this fundraise money will go toward that. But also just a special shout out to Simcoe. We did a presentation a month ago to just present what we do at these teen events. What's the whole purpose? Why do we put them on? To ask for the $5,000 grant to go towards organizations. And so they had plenty of organizations come out and do a presentation, and we were one of the ones that got granted that. So thank you, Simcoe.
Congratulations to you all. Thank you to Simcoe, of course, but congratulations to your hard work.
Yeah.
All right, so October 3rd, we're having a block party outside Loving, the Loving High School. That starts about 5 p.m. right before the football game. October 5th, we're doing a pie in the face. So go to the carlsbadcoalition.com, donate $1, $10, $20, get you 20 votes, right? And make sure you put some money on the face that you'd like to see pied.
Yes, make sure you do it under Joanna Wells.
Okay, so Hannah would love to see her boss pied in the face. All right, I'd like to see Hutchinson personally. I think I'm going to go in there. I'm going to vote a little bit for that. And then we have another event coming up quickly, October 11th. What's happening on October 11th?
So finally, our last event is October 11th. It's a tailgate party. So it's one of the last football games here in Carlsbad. The theme is military appreciation, so you might see some patriotic or camo stuff, but the entire purpose is for a community to come out and enjoy some free food. So every organization that we've teamed up with will have their own truck and tailgate, technically, and they're going to bring their own food. We've met up with them a couple times this month so we can all be on the same page on who's bringing what. So it's kind of like potluck style. You come by each truck, you get your food loaded up on your plate. I think we're going to have like little hot dogs. We're going to have chicken and waffles, and then everyone else has like, what is it? You walk away with it in a little like Frito pie bowl, some desserts and stuff. So it's going to be really fun. Maybe some games for you to enjoy, but it's really just another way for the community to learn more about the organizations, take some free food, enjoy the night with their families, and that's it. So October 11th, that is a Friday night.
Yep. And what time would you like the tailgating to start?
I think that one actually starts at 6. I might be wrong. So if you want to show up early, please show up early. We'll be there early setting up, but I'm pretty sure it's 6 o'clock.
Okay. All right. So we have real quick recaps. Those are 3 events. Now we can find these events on your website.
Yes.
carlsbadcoalition.com. On your Facebook page.
Facebook page. Yes. We have an Instagram and a TikTok, but you probably see a lot more through our Facebook page.
Well, give me your Instagram.
Instagram is just Carlsbad Coalition, and same for the TikTok.
TikTok. Okay. I will not follow you on TikTok because I've decided not to adopt that app, but I will follow you everywhere else. I do already, actually.
Awesome.
October 3rd, block party in Loving, celebrating Loving Falcons football game before they get started. That's going to be October 3rd, 5 p.m. October 5th in the morning at the courthouse, Main Street, Farmers Market. You could even donate that morning, right?
Yes.
You get votes in that morning to the last minute.
Up until the person gets pied. So.
No, to the highest bidder gets pied in the face. And then October 11th, one of the last football games here for Carlsbad High School for the Cavemen. That's going to be about 6 o'clock. A nice tailgate party for that. Military Appreciation Day as well.
Yes.
All right. What am I missing? What are we missing?
I mean, there's always more to talk about. We may not have time. I can talk for hours, but I think that's the biggest highlights right now.
Okay. Well, you're a great interview. Hannah Ornelas, Program Assistant for the Carlsbad Anti-Drug and Gang Coalition. You're doing great work. Really appreciate you coming on. I can't wait for the next one because I'm sure you have a lot more. So thank you.
Thank you for listening.
You're listening to Community Forum on KCCC 930 AM, sponsored by Eddy County, honoring God, country, and family, thriving with industry since 1889.